There's two things I really don't like to hear.
Okay.
Let it go, and you just need to accept it.
Oh gosh, I get. Ugh. Hello and welcome to Moving Forward, the podcast of the ICCI, the International Coaching and Counseling Institute, where coaching meets real life. And today I have a very special guest. Her name is Alexis Downing. She's the founder of In Life and Loss Coaching, former student of the ICCI. And you know, Alexis, I have something to tell you, that this week I had Facebook reminding me about the students that I enrolled 3 years ago. And you're one of them.
Yes.
It's pretty unbelievable. It was only 3 years ago. And all the things that you've done, I'm going to tell everyone about what you've done in just a moment. But yeah, all these pop-ups. We started on the 4th of March, three
That's
years
right.
ago. It's crazy.
Oh,
absolutely
wow.
crazy.
It's almost to the day.
Yes, almost to the day.
I love that.
Really amazing. Now you're a coach and trainer focusing on loss and grief
Yes.
in the broadest of sense. And not only do you work with those who go through loss after a death, but also and mostly with clients who experience grief from a non-death loss. Or a living loss, which is something that I would like to ask you about.
Yes.
For you to explain to me what are those things. But first, I'm going to ask you something that I'm asking all my guests here on the podcast. And this is, when or where did you first meet coaching? And what did you think about it?
I don't remember when, but a long time ago. And when I would think about a coach, I would think of these inspirational public figures, you know, that you'd see on television, or they would have sets of tapes that you could listen to and set out your goals and you can do this. And I would always buy into it. And then I'd feel like a failure afterwards.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I
I
wouldn't meet the standards. I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. And on the other side, I guess when I thought coach, it would be in sports world or in the business world. You know, you're at the top of your game and you want to get further and you get a coach in and you move forward. And I never saw myself as one of those people. Never in a million years did I think I would be a coach or want to become a coach. So yeah, that was my first impression of coach. I had friends who were coaches too, and yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be them either.
Okay, now comes the question of what changed, you know, because I do remember those, the fact that you're saying coaching tapes tells me how long ago it was. I only remember CDs that you could buy, you know, a packet of 4 or 5, 6 CDs to listen to.
Exactly. I think for those of you too young to know what that is.
Yeah. Now everything is on YouTube. Everything is, you know,
Yeah.
you just Google it and you get
it.
a few pep talks, etc. But yeah, you had to buy those. But I share it with you. That, you know, very quickly I realized that it to me it doesn't help me. It actually makes me feel more like bad about myself.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Sometimes it was very inspirational, and I remember listening to a few that were very, very good. But yeah, a lot of times it's that just pep talk and come on and do it without any meat and without anything, you know, to work with. So what made you change to wanting to learn coaching in the first place? So just coaching, before I'm asking you about your very speciality.
Just the coaching really came from my personal experience, things that I was going through, help that I was looking for myself and I couldn't find. And when I did find it, I realized how beneficial it would be to other people in my situation. And it came to a point where I can't say completely got through my own things. We always have things that we're going through and working on, even now. But I got to a point where I felt, wow, there's nobody really doing this right now. And I want to do that for other people. And I didn't initially think, oh, I need to be a coach.
Yeah.
But for months, I kind of looked at, Google and asking other people and in my community, who is the person you would go to for this? And I couldn't really get any straight answers.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
What is that there was no answer to in the community?
Yeah, it was support for caregivers specifically, and who were struggling with a lot of care and having to give up whole areas of their life with the added bonus, that doesn't seem like the right word, but of having a sick person, a loved one, who you love dearly and want to do everything you can for, and not getting really the right support. So you're thrown into a caregiving role, you put all of your energy in there, and you lose who you are. You lose your own life, you lose your career, you lose the person that you used to be.
Yeah.
You lose an image of yourself and the future you might have held together. Everything changes. It's a whole new reality. And it took me years. Nobody recognized that as a loss for me.
Yeah. Wow.
When you grieve, somebody's died.
Yes.
But nobody actually pinned that word for what I was going through.
So maybe, if you don't mind, to tell our audience what you were going through. Because I know, but
Yes.
they don't.
I was going for an awful lot. But
what made you become a caregiver?
Yeah. So shortly after I got married in 2012, my husband was diagnosed at the age of 32 with ALS. And
Which is?
it's motor neuron disease, and it's a neuromuscular disease where basically your motor neurons, so the messages from your brain down to your muscles, they stop working. And because the muscles aren't receiving any information, the muscles gradually stop working. And he was diagnosed with the worst form. And so within about a year, I guess, his speech and his mobility declined quite rapidly.
Yeah.
So in our first year of marriage, we decided to have a child, which we're so very happy about.
Yeah.
And I went from having this brand new beginning, starting a new life together, very quickly into a caregiving role.
Because his situation deteriorated as such that you had to care for him.
Yes. Even when I said the doctors would come around and look at the house, what we have to do and everything. And I remember a conversation where I said, I'm actually doing great. My son is now 6 months old. I'm looking for work again. I'm really motivated. And they just said, you can't do that.
Oh.
He needs somebody at home with him all the time.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is why you're saying that not only you lost the partner that you had because he's now sick, he's not able to do things. He's obviously, his situation deteriorates quite quickly.
Yes.
Also, you lost who you were.
Yes.
In the sense that you were ready to go back to work, to have your normal life, but you couldn't anymore.
No. And in a sense, maybe I should have foreseen that. But when you're faced with such changes and such loss, there's always that denial. This isn't happening.
Yeah.
I'm getting on with my life. Nothing's going to change. Everything, for the longest time, I didn't want things to change. I didn't want to move house. We left it until really 10 days before our child was born to move to a house with no stairs because I kept on saying, no, we're going to stay here.
Yeah.
He'll manage the stairs. Like it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And I could have foreseen it, but I was in that magical state of nah, this isn't happening. This
Which is
not happening
which
to
is
me.
one of the known states of loss, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're looking at
Is it Kolber-Ross? What was her name?
yeah, Kubler-Ross,
Yes.
and that was more designed for exactly this situation, not so much with death, but with a diagnosis. And we can talk about theories all day long, but at the end of the day, let's not.
Let's not. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's really, everyone will recognize that when you're hit with news,
Yeah.
our first instinct is to, put the blinders on.
Yeah.
It's not happening right now. Maybe we go to bed for a week.
Yeah.
Maybe we get into some kind of activity which totally distracts us.
Yeah.
It's natural. We all do it.
Yeah.
And I did that.
I can hear.
Yeah. And caregiving, you don't often, people who are caregivers don't choose to be put in that situation. Home caregivers, of course, you have your paid medical caregivers and things like that. That's different, but
Because people who chose it as a profession.
exactly, yeah. And but for a lot of us, it's not a choice. Even though from the outside world, it is a choice. But you choose to stay there. You choose to do this.
Yeah.
But love is stronger sometimes, and it's not a choice. It's a given. This is where I'm at. This is what I need to do for them and for myself.
Because this is my husband. Because this is the father of my child. Because I love him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not really going to choose not to care for that person.
No way. And
almost,
I was,
yeah, naturally become that caregiver.
You fall into it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I never thought about it that way, that you are actually, it looks like you have a choice, but it's actually, for most of us, it's not a choice. The choice is not to have a choice. The choice is to do it.
Mm-hmm. You recognize it.
Yeah. Wow. So you're actually working mostly with people that this is their situation.
Either caregivers and caregiver is a wide term.
Yeah.
And I think if people say, yeah, but what's a caregiver? And obviously it's paid, but if you feel any kind of responsibility for another human being, I would consider you a caregiver. And so I also have clients who consider themselves caregivers for themselves. Okay. People who have a chronic illness that they have to manage, that nobody else is there for them, and obviously all the other responsibilities in their lives. And I found it really interesting that I get these calls saying, I read about what you do, but I'm not sure if I fit. Okay. This is my situation. Am I a caregiver? And I said, well, do you feel like you are? Yes. That's it. That's enough. And so that's why I started coaching. And it was more for my group of people, young families or who are dealing with an illness or caregiver burnout, stress, things like that. Yeah. But it's actually become quite broad. That's why I say, it's very broad, the type of clients that I receive or get on the line. Some of them I don't take on because it's too close to home.
Okay. But
for the most part, it's really lovely and rewarding work.
Yeah.
As you know. Yeah.
But I am interested in that topic of caregiving. Because like you're saying, a lot of people are asking you, am I a caregiver? In other words, my question is, who is giving the definition and what is the definition of a caregiver?
You can Google it.
I'm Googling you.
There are definitely definitions out there.
What is your definition?
My definition would be to ask yourself if you feel responsible for somebody else's welfare, mentally or physically or financially. Is that person a family member? Are they a friend? Are they a neighbor?
Hmm.
Is it your child? Is it you? And if you answer yes to any of these questions, then you're a caregiver. Do you feel like a caregiver?
Hmm.
If
So,
that,
so
if
it
the
doesn't necessarily need to be that a social worker came and looked at the situation and said, because you were at home with that person, or your life is being heavily affected because you need to care for somebody else, you're a caregiver. This is, one of the ways, but what you're saying, it's much broader than that. Because a lot of people do care for others, their life is being affected by it, even if it's not falling under the official definition.
Exactly. And that's for me, it's my point of view. That's my standing point and where I want to be as an independent coach, because people don't need to tick boxes to come and see me. I work closely with a charity in the town where I live. They have an amazing support group of social workers for this very purpose, but they even find it difficult to reach all of the caregivers out there. A lot of them are children.
Really?
Yes, because people and kids don't realize that they are caregivers in a lot of situations. That's just life.
Give me an example for a situation where a kid is a caregiver.
You can have a family where one of the children has special needs. The other children are going to their regular school, or they have their own things, but part of their life is helping their brother or sister out.
Okay.
People outside of the family don't see what they do.
So the family dynamic is as such that without them choosing it, they become caregivers for a sibling.
Yeah, and we don't see it as caregiving.
Sure.
It's life. That's how life works within this family unit. That's how we get along. That's what we do. But in other households, it's different.
Yeah.
And these kids turn out to be absolutely amazing human beings because of this experience. But in some situations, and it can be really, especially if you have on top of that a parent maybe who's depressed. And so they're not putting in their, they're not, I don't want to say they're not doing enough, because obviously they're not in a situation to. But you'll find that especially a lot of teens will pick up those pieces and they'll get stuff done. They'll put breakfast on the table. They'll take their siblings to school. It gets sorted out.
Yeah.
If they're lucky enough, they have a great counselor at school who they can talk to. But sometimes that just, if the school doesn't hear about it, there's not a problem. And if the neighbors don't hear about it, there's not a problem. And people like to have quiet lives at the end of the day. And these are the
and more than that, because actually, as you're talking, I feel that this really hits home because we have a child with special needs, and the family unit acts in a certain way. That a lot of time I'm thinking, if she did not have those needs, would be, I don't like the word normal, but let's call it normal, okay, just for the sake of the conversation. If she was like her bigger sister, our family dynamic would have been different. And I am thinking now about her siblings and what they do, especially my oldest.
Yes.
Who is really feeling responsible for her and doing certain things for her. And I think that we are trying that she wouldn't be that involved all the time.
Yes.
We are really trying to take it off, that responsibility off her. But it is certainly what you're saying, that she feels a lot of times that she has that responsibility and she will do things for her little sister. But yeah, you're being born. I think they were born to it. And in a way, this is our family. This is how we work. This is how we, we operate. We don't see anything weird about it. It's
No.
just, it's our package and that's what we do. However, lots of times I'm thinking, yeah, if my oldest would have had some, or both my, the oldest and the youngest, if they will have some support, that will be great, because I'm also thinking in the future, who they will be the ones, ideally, if everything goes naturally, we are getting older, they are taking over, they will have to take care of the sister. And they know it. And they live their lives knowing it.
Yeah.
So I never thought to think of them as caregivers, but eventually I'm guessing that they will be.
And it's a role they've fallen into. It's not a choice. It could be a choice in the future. But what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of love.
Yes.
And they do it out of love.
Yes.
It's not I have to do this. There are pure actions of love.
Yeah.
And we love to put names on things. They're a caregiver then. But it does help us then to realize, wow, they are doing a lot. And maybe it would be nice for them to have the support in the future. Yeah.
You make me think now. I'm thinking, am I doing something wrong? No. But it's something that to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I never thought about until this very moment, actually. You don't need to be sorry. It's actually, this is why I invited you here, to enlighten us. And by us, I mean myself as well. It's a topic that I'm not aware. I'm aware of. I don't know much about, and this is exactly why I invited you for. I didn't know it will
Thank you.
so quickly when we're talking, but definitely. So you're coaching caregivers, and I'm guessing that a lot of your clients will be caregivers that have gone through some kind of decision, whether a choice, that decision came as a choice or not, it doesn't matter, but a decision to care for another person. So, whether let's say my oldest will then decide to be the is it apotropsy? How do you say?
I don't know.
Oh, that's like the responsible person. We say apotropos, but maybe anyway. Like the official person responsible for her little sister.
Yes.
Maybe I hope in 30, 40 years time, not before, that will be then a choice. But a lot of people make that choice much earlier in their lives, or they are being put into this position. And like you're saying, what happened to you? Whether they realize or not, they're going through loss of who they are, their identity, their possibilities, their future, their financial situation. A lot of times you need to invest a lot of money into care.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
First of all, the two examples that we've given of caregiving are more on the extreme.
Right.
And I want to point out that I think everybody at some point in their life will touch on caregiving, whether it's for an elderly parent briefly for 2 weeks, or a neighbor, or that. It's a very broad term. Okay. And we're going right in deep at the beginning. So yes, I have people come to me who are caregivers, and sometimes it's very personal, like a child or a husband or a wife. Other times it's their in-laws who are they have dementia and they need someone to go around on a daily basis, just to have a chat, organize things, go shopping for them. These are really basic things now. And I think a lot of people can relate to that at some point in our life, somebody's got COVID.
Yes.
Or long COVID, and they're stuck and they really can't do much anymore. And you're a good neighbor. I'm going shopping tomorrow. Yeah. What can I get you? You're a caregiver.
especially if it becomes something that's on a
regular
regular
basis.
basis.
Exactly. To get back to your question, how do I help those people? It really depends on what they're coming with at that moment.
In other words, just a minute. Let me understand. Basically, what you're saying is that there is, like you say, beyond the official definition, if we look at society and how most of us are operating in society, a lot of us are in a caregiving position.
Yes.
Because this is the expected things, this is the cultural thing, like you're saying, to care for an elderly, you're becoming a caregiver, to care for somebody who is sick.
Yes.
You know, like in hospital, people are, you know, I know people who've been hospitalized for a long time, and the friends made a rota of who is going there.
Yes.
You know, every day somebody else, even
Amazing.
for a couple of hours. This is very cultural. People do that. Cook for somebody. Cook for a neighbor, for a friend. Even a person after they gave birth. Sometimes you have, we are very lucky here in the Netherlands that we have the kraamzorg, the special nurse that comes for a few days after giving birth. But in a lot of other places, it's the family who is doing it, the friends who are doing it. So although you're a caregiver for maybe momentarily for a few days, that can linger to much longer, right?
Exactly, yes.
If we have like a new mother, but a mother who just gave birth and she becomes depressed, postnatal depression, somebody needs to care for her, the husband, the parents, the family.
It has a knock-on effect.
Definitely. Gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, even sometimes if it's just your neighbor, that you are taking care of them.
Yeah.
Wow.
And because it goes, and it's very culturally as well, there's a lot of difference from one place to another. You know, in some cultures, it's just a given that the community will support or the family will support. In others, it's not.
Yeah.
But because historically it is kind of expected to, you know, your parent gets sick, you go and look after them. It's not recognized.
Yeah.
It's not recognized as a loss. The people that come to me.
As a loss.
Ooh.
So not just it's not recognized as caregiving, like in the official term of it.
Yeah.
Which is, let's say, you know, I know we have very close friends that their boy is severely autistic. One of the parents stopped working in order to take care of this child. So that's, you know, the official caregiving, and obviously loss there because the parent who had to stop working, etc., etc.
Yes.
But what you're saying is that even people who go through the non-official caregiving, they also experience some type of loss.
Yes, and it's very dependent. If I'm going to compare it to trauma. When there can be the same event, people have experienced the same event. One person walks away with a severe trauma from it, and the other person doesn't seem to be bothered. It's our own experience of the event. For one person, it's a loss. The other person, it might not feel like such a loss. But for the person it does feel like a loss for, and who's grieving for, maybe the example you gave, you know, they've had to give up on their job. They have a child who needs constant caring, maybe. They could be going through a grieving process which isn't recognized by anyone else, which is comparable, and there are lots of studies that have been done and are being done, to the grief experienced after someone has died. Our brains don't differentiate sometimes. And I'm not going to get into that today.
Not into the theory.
It's really interesting. But because living losses or a non-death loss are quite vague in society, and we don't talk about it like a death, there's no end. It's chronic. There's no end in sight. So the grieving doesn't have a place to stop.
Or to start.
Or to start. Yeah, exactly. To start. People who are experiencing that probably also don't even know that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But they feel it. They don't feel seen.
Mm.
They don't feel heard. They feel often very alone when they talk about it to family members, because there's no end. It's constant. People see that as complaining. Oh, she's playing the victim again. Your social ties cut off to some degree.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many, and then I'm going into like the next step, then that there's so many secondary losses attached also to living losses, and people are not aware.
So tell me about that. Tell me about those non-death losses and living losses.
So we touched on one, which is caregiving.
Mm-hmm.
In a very physical sense. We talked about my ex-husband, but living losses are really, it's really quite broad. Maybe you can think of some times in your life where you felt a loss which isn't connected to a death.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that fits, but you tell me. When we moved from England to the Netherlands,
Yes.
I had a very good work life there. I was teaching in London in a school, and half the week in Oxford University. I had a title. I had work to go to.
Lovely.
And as this family decision, when we moved to the Netherlands, I knew that for the first few months or a few years, I will not work. And I remember how when I came here, I felt at loss. I felt like there's part of me that's not existing anymore. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
That it's like, who am I? And my definition of who I am, and the working mom that I was, very proudly, I worked. And all of a sudden, I'm just a mom.
Right.
Takes care of her kids and helping the family settle. But I wasn't Noah, who is doing something she really loves.
You left a part of
Yeah.
yourself behind
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, definitely did. And it took me a long time to recover from it, like to find other things that will define me by my doing as well as my being.
Yeah. And just pulling you back to that loss of the part of yourself. What other things did you lose? You spoke about your career.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you were just a mum. What other things were lost in that process?
Well, the kind of, I don't know how to call it, prestige. I don't know.
Yes.
I had to prove to myself and to others who I am. So I lost that kind of the community knowing what is it that I'm doing,
right?
And respect to me.
The respect that
yes.
that came with
yeah.
that title.
Yeah.
What other losses?
Money.
Yeah, financial.
That's
a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. The ability to go out 3 or 4 times a week, get a shower in the morning, get dressed, go to work. That kind of, this part of me was lost because I didn't go to work. I could, I took a shower, went to take the kids to school, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Definitely not the same. The friends,
the
social colleagues,
yeah.
Some of them I was happy to say goodbye to, but others I really missed. So, that going and seeing, to Oxford, I used to take tube in the coach rather than driving. So that me time of 3 hours on public transport there and 3 hours on public transport back twice a week, I lost that. The me time.
Me time,
yes.
Because children don't allow for me time.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So, but also like a place to put my abilities into, like to express myself and my abilities, like the teaching abilities, because I was
Yes.
teaching in Oxford, the organizational abilities, the idea of like thinking ahead and planning and all that.
Sense of purpose.
Sense of purpose, definitely, and putting my experience and the things I know how to do into a good purpose.
Yes.
That was lost, definitely. I mean, partly I did a lot of things. You move to a new house, new country. You have to use that, but more publicly, I would say.
Yes.
I do like to put myself in use to see as like more than just my family benefiting from the things I have to give, and that was lost, definitely.
Thank you.
Why do you say that?
Because you touched on all areas of your life there, and how one move, one larger loss can trickle down to create a whole variety of secondary losses. And it happens to all of us. And some people are really good at getting on with things. This is my new situation. I can do this. I'm okay with that move. I'm going to leave that all behind. Others, like me included, have difficulty. And that's when I also feel that the people I coach, when they would come to me, when they're hit with this, it's not just one area of your life. Yes, somebody's sick. And caregiving is just one type of living loss.
Yeah.
You just mentioned a whole array of other living losses there. They'll come to me when they're there. They're at that point where, I've made this, call it a choice, caregiving or moving. There are other things which are out of our control. Having someone who's been put in prison, for example, that's also a living loss. They're not gone, they're not dead, but it's huge. But there are all these other areas. And even though somebody comes to me for coaching because of their sadness and the grief they're experiencing, in which there's a huge amount of space there for that, for their story, they're also at a point where they're saying, I want that bit of me back.
Yeah.
I want to move forward. I don't know how. I don't know where to start. I'm lost. And that's where coaching can be so beautiful and beneficial. It doesn't take away the loss.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. There's two things I really don't like to hear.
Okay.
Let it go. Move on.
Yes.
Let it go. And you just need to accept it.
Oh gosh, I get. It's amazing what you're saying. All those things about caregiving. That again, some of us will fall under a specific definition, but a lot of us will find ourselves in that situation, either whether we want it or not, or sometimes we will not even know that we are caregivers, but we are. So how do you help people who, like you're saying, somebody calls you, am I a caregiver? And you are helping them to realize if they are or they're not. And when you realize that they are, for whatever reason, what do you do?
Yeah. Firstly, I'm a coach. And per definition, I'm looking at what's happening right now, the present, and looking to see if that person is in a state of mind where they're looking to go in a forward direction, moving forward.
Yeah. The name of our podcast.
Moving forward.
Yes.
That said, because of the nature of my work, we've lost something that's happened. We're gonna go there, and there's gonna be space held for that story as many times as necessary.
For the story of what happened.
For the story of what happened. How do I help caregivers specifically? Greatly depends on what they're looking for, where they're at. If they're in that state of denial that I was in at the beginning, then we're looking to repeat a story. They need to feel heard and seen until they can find that place of acknowledgement. Oh, that has happened. This is a reality, and it's different from my past reality.
Yeah.
And coaching is a process, and if I'm not the pushy kind of coach I was talking about at the beginning, I wish I could be.
No, please
but
don't.
This is I am true to myself, and I do hold my own experience near when I'm coaching, but everyone comes with, I mean, the stories and it's just unimaginable what the things that I hear. And I work with each, I don't work on a particular model of grief or a steps program. It really is person-centered. I work with them.
What is happening to you now, and where would you like the change to be? Where do you see yourself different? And
or maybe they can't even see that, and they need to get to that place. Then we work with that. And before we brought up 3 situations of caregiving which were quite extreme, and people will listen and say, well, I don't have that, but I do feel like a caregiver. But it's you know, my husband is diabetic. And that's just a part of our life. I'm not a caregiver. We both work. We both get on with our lives. But there is an extra element of stress.
Or my partner is depressed.
Yes. Mental health issues.
Yes.
Are a big one. And there is a lot of support. I'm not going to, I know enough people who are, who have support from, we live in the Netherlands, so the Dutch system, but it's not enough. And it's often linked to what their loved one is getting, so it's not really separate. It's not just for them. And
their specific needs or their specific pain at a given moment, or difficulty or challenge at a given moment.
And they often feel like if it's the same therapist or person they're speaking to, coach, whoever it is, that sees their loved one, the confidentiality is always something which has been brought up with me. I won't go and see the same person as them because I don't know what they discuss in their sessions.
So like to have a separate person who's
to have a separate person. And what I work on with clients, it's they come with it. It could be super practical.
Like
I just can't sort out my day. And I will coach them to find ways in which they can sort out the practicalities in their day, cleaning or picking up the kids from school on time, whatever it is, whatever their little issues are. How can I fit in 20 minutes of gym so I feel better? I'll coach them through that process.
If that's what their need is.
If that's what their need is. And sometimes it does go in that direction. And then one day they'll say, you know what? I had a really awful night with my loved one. I haven't slept and I'm going through this all again. This is a huge loss for me. They need to share their story again. And we take that hour to do just that. And that's...
In other words, what you're describing is, first of all, as a coach, you're helping people to tell their story, to give it legitimacy to be what it is.
What it is to them, their truth. People get stuck on details. Maybe that's not exactly how it was. I don't care. Whatever the person comes with, their story, their reality.
how they experience what is
Exactly.
happening or
Yeah.
what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're helping them, first of all, to hold that story because that's theirs, that's their reality.
Yes.
And to deal with it in a way that suits them. And like you're saying, sometimes it will be something of, I need the help. I don't know how to get the help.
Mm-hmm.
Or I do have the help, but I want something else with my life. And sometimes it's that mental support to give it legitimacy that is, this is what is happening.
Yes.
To say to your clients, that's your life story. That's what is happening. It is your current difficulty.
Yes.
Let's not shy away from it. And let's work with what there is.
Yes.
Whether it's short-term caregiving, and then there is certain loss, like...
Yes, it
you
can
know,
lead.
I cannot go abroad now, and that's, although
Yes.
I really wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
or long-term loss,
Yes.
which is a bit like what I was saying about my children that will have to take care of their sister, etc. There's something there that things that they will not be able to do, or they will have responsibilities that will...
Yeah. And we're talking about how clients are coming to me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But if we raise this awareness in our communities,
Yeah.
it's also a way of prevention to
Yes.
getting to that state of burnout and stress. You're already talking to your children and you're thinking
Yeah.
years ahead.
I hope a years
Wow,
ahead, yes.
how amazing. What can we do? What can they do knowing that this is part of their lives?
Yeah.
How can they move forward in a way which benefits them in the best ways and their sibling?
Yeah, so planning and... Yeah.
And that falls, coaching is a great tool.
Oh, it is. Okay, wow,
Yeah.
that was really eye-opening. You really taught me something here. I never thought to consider our family as a family of caregivers, but we are.
Yes.
So thank you for that. And like you're saying, each one, first of all, to raise awareness that the caregivers are not necessarily what the social workers come with, but also that there is a lot you can do. There is, even just to talk about it.
There's so much.
To just let go of some feelings or tell your story. Just tell your story and get recognition.
It's
I'm going to tell you something. My uncle, he's a coach too. He was a coach before I was a coach. We learned more or less the same time, but he was about a year or two ahead of me. And yesterday I spoke to him, and I talked to him about our daughter, and then he said, "You are amazing. You are just amazing. The things you go through." And I'm like, "Things I go through? That's my life." And he said, no, it's your life, but the things you go through, and what an amazing mom you are, and you are amazing parents to her. And that meant such a lot.
Yes.
That somebody is sitting there and is recognizing that I am doing things. But it doesn't need to be that I'm going beyond what I'm expecting. No, but just that little recognition that I'm doing something and it's meaningful to our daughter or to our family. And somebody to just say, "You're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. You're doing great."
For people to say it.
Yes. That was amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what you're
Thank
doing.
you for sharing.
Wow, Alexis, there's so much we can talk about, but we have to stop here. And as you know, we have something at the end of every episode where I'm hosting somebody. We call it 2+1.
Right.
That I'm getting to ask you two surprising questions, and then you can return a favor and ask me something surprising. So the first thing that I want to ask you is, I know you are a mother to a 10-year-old.
Yes.
Do you speak to him that he is actually also a caregiver to his dad who has ALS?
I have in the past, but no, I don't.
Why not?
We haven't lived with his dad for many years. And it's a really good question because of everything we've just said. Officially, I would also call him a caregiver.
Yeah, officially.
Under my definition.
Yes.
And probably that of the social world.
Yeah.
But the only thing he needs to do with his dad is to have that father-son time.
Yeah. Because he sees him sad, like not a lot, and he's in a care home, and
he sees him once a week. He's only ever known his dad sick. So it's not a change. For sure, there's a huge amount of loss there. I'm not taking that away, but it's a different kind of loss. I wouldn't pull him under the caregiver.
Interesting.
And I wouldn't want to put that label on him.
Yeah. Wow.
That's why I said we're quick at putting names and labels on things, but sometimes it's not beneficial. And we make that decision. And personally,
what you're saying now makes me think that I will, later on when I'm seeing my kids, I will raise it, and I will ask them, do you feel like caregivers to your sister? And it will be interesting to know what they think.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, sometimes it depends what we feel. It doesn't, the definitions don't matter so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what I say. Yeah. It matters what you think or what your children think.
Yeah. Or what you feel.
What you feel. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the other question is, if you didn't work with loss and, that heavy topic, what would you like to coach more about?
Life. Which I do anyway.
Which you do.
Yeah, I do.
Your company is in life and loss.
That's a good question. And I think you should just kind of watch this space and see what happens in the next few years. Maybe I change direction. This is what's important to me right now.
Yeah.
If I feel like my main purpose with the coaching is not really to coach, which I love doing, and I think I'm good at it, but is raise awareness around this subject, loss, but specifically the non-death loss and caregiving. Once I feel that's taken care of, I would feel happy to go on and coach in other areas. And I really don't know, because I think everything is interesting.
Wow. I cannot wait to see. To see. But I have another question for you.
Oh, 3?
Yes.
Oh.
When you came to us to study coaching,
yes,
it was pretty clear to you what you already want to do. Has anything changed from the moment you entered the ICCI for the first time to now? Have you realized things that you didn't think you'll coach about?
Yes. I came in with that one kind of mission, is what I just said. This is kind of what I want to give. What I've learned through the process of different clients, I was very focused on the younger generation, or families with young children who are experiencing a loss.
Because this was your experience.
That was my experience. The last while I've been working with older people, and wow, my whole perspective on that has changed so drastically. And that's definitely a demographic that I love working with. And the stories, wow. And these are people in their 80s and 90s, and their spark and their want to live and have fun is just as strong as any 20-year-olds.
Amazing.
And that was mind-blowing to me, and something I never thought I would sit down every week with a 93-year-old.
Wow.
And okay, it's not coaching in the traditional sense. We talk a lot about how she wants her life to end, but she's such a character, and I've learned so much from her, and how important family and community are for everyone, but especially for those who are considered old or, you know, we can't be bothered with them anymore. They can't move, they can't do anything, but they can.
Yes.
It's a real, so I think that's my biggest change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. What an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Huh? Now you get to ask me one surprising question.
I have a loaded question. The name of my company is In Life and Loss.
Yes.
And I would like to know from your experience where life and loss cross.
Whoa.
And what it means to you.
Do you want a whole podcast?
Not a whole podcast, just an insightful.
It might be a cliche what I'm going to say, but unfortunately, loss is part of life. And we avoid it because it hurts. But I think that the quicker we realize it, and the more legitimacy we give to it, the easier it is to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, for example, with our loss, we made sure that our children who were born after we lost our firstborn, we talk about it at home. We talk about it. It's part of life.
Yes.
So for me, loss is part of life, and the earlier we'll talk about it with children, but the more we will give it space, the better.
Yeah. Thank you.
And this is why I love the name of your company so much. So let us tell people who are listening to us how they can find you, because this is the name of your company. This is the name of your website as well, www.inlifeandloss.eu. So not .com, .eu. I will put it also in the description of the podcast, of the episode, of course. People can find you. I'll also put the links to LinkedIn and Instagram. You've got a lovely Instagram account, I know, because I'm following it. Alexis, thank you so much. That was really eye-opener for me. I never thought I'll talk about what I did, because I never realized that, even in my life and our family, we are caregivers, whether we want it or not. In more than one way, actually. I just spoke about one way, but I realized that there are more. Just we didn't have time to mention that. And I'm sure that I'm not the only one who was listening today and realizing that they are caregivers. They can, they go through things that maybe others don't, or they go through things that they haven't thought they would, and they do. And if it feels like it's a bit too heavy, or you just want to let things off your chest, coaching is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Noah.
Such a pleasure.